Hi, I'm Scott, founder and CEO of Autonomic. I build and develop agentic tools for GTM and for software businesses. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about something that's quite close to my heart. Actually, it's one of the first agentic kind of software builds that I went through as part of my journey that I'm in at the moment, and it was based around helping me with something that actually, frankly, I'm terrible at. Probably remain pretty terrible at. So I'm an experienced operator. I've been in GTM SaaS for 20 plus years. Presented to boards, to investors, to teams. I've coached sales teams. I've delivered the forecast. I've sold and to customers through every role in the GTM org. But one thing that I've remained pretty terrible at most of my career is being interviewed. Typically, and anyone that knows me that's watching this will laugh at this. And I think you've got to be willing to laugh at yourself and identify where you want to improve your own skills. But interviews, I suck. Right, I talk too long. I bury the point. Occasionally, I'd say something really, really great that I might want to carry through to the next interview, but I've just never been that good at capturing it. And it's in between loads of noise. So, a couple of things that inspired me, that made me want to build this workflow that I'm going to talk to you about today. Number one, I was starting out my own business, and number two, I identified the opportunity to become part of the Masterclass Executive OpenAI AI leadership program, but it involved a pretty rigorous interview process. So I wanted to get better. I was pretty worried that I had the skills to be part of the program, but not the skills to execute the interview. So I built out my own interviewer, basically. So I wanted the opportunity that I saw in this was I wanted to have really robust feedback, but also repeatable practice time and resources to be able to learn where I was doing a really good job and where I was doing a terrible job and where I needed to improve. So I started out, I was recording myself. I've been used to using tools like Pitstop my whole career. These are really, really great, but what I wanted was something that could learn how I talk and where I could get very specific about the process that I wanted to practice. So it was really when I started listening back to myself, honestly, it was the most uncomfortable thing I've ever done in my career. I could hear really long answers, weak structure, and then good phrases that would disappear inside everything else. So what I wanted to be able to do was to not memorize more answers, but to practice literally how I talk, right? So to think about the tools that I tried that were out there, there were some kind of generic counterpart tools. Feedback was, not specific enough to what I was trying to achieve. And then I was struggling to find a tool where I was able to keep the history. So what I thought about was actually what I'd experienced in terms of my first forays into AI as well, is that you get out of it what you put in, right? If you're asking tools to spit out information that Google could, you're really using them well below their means. If you're not specific enough about kind of the rubric of what would make the tool perform well, like if you're not giving it basis for what it should do, what it shouldn't do, and how it can learn, again, you're probably you're probably just as well using something sort of generic. So what I wanted to do was get really specific about having a rubric for each type of conversation. This tool I'm going to show you in a second, I'm going to demo it, has got lots of different scenarios in it now. But the main thing I wanted was continuity. So I wanted to be able to turn repeat attempts into development priorities and score myself over time. And I wanted ownership to be able to keep the history locally, make it exportable if I could, but be able to learn from mistakes I had made or great things. And even just in running through a couple of familiarity kind of reruns this morning for this this topic, just this recording just now, I've actually found a couple of really good phrases, of really, really good turns of phrase for my own business, right? So I'm a really firm believer in practicing what you're going to deliver. If you think about the sports analogy in sales, I know it's tired. Everyone does it all the time, but in sports, they spend about 10% of their time performing, 90% of their time practicing. In sales or GTM commercial roles, we don't do that. So for me, having a tool that allows me to do that in a really meaningful way was what this was all about. Um, so I guess why this sort of matters to people in GTM, to GTM leaders, to sellers is, if you use a tool like Pitstop, for example, you can rehearse three very different moments in the go-to-market motion. You can practice things like executive pitches or sign-offs, or you can practice any specific moment that you struggle with throughout the sales process. But for me, this is applicable to lots of different areas. But for me, what this has been about is, number one, talking to the people in the interview process as part of Masterclass Executive. Second, learning the proficiency of the language within AI as I'm building out a business. And then third, talking to investors or potential clients from a new perspective. I've always done it from selling somebody else's business. I've never done it as the owner of my own. And I think that this matters because it's that reframing of how you're positioning yourself and where you're coming at a conversation in a way that allows you to practice it on your own terms, listen back to it, practice what happens again, different pressures, but the same voice. So I'm gonna jump in and show you what I've built here in a quick live demonstration, right? So I'm gonna use a scenario that started this. So it was an executive panel interview. I think the things to look out for is, does the interviewer remain in kind of character? Have a look at where the rubric is obviously trying to score me or trying to point me in the conversation, and look potentially less about my performance in the call. It's actually quite useful if it picks up things that aren't quite so good. So this is Cauldron, maybe terrible name. It's the platform that I've built to deliver this. I'm just going to drop in the API key so it's picking this up. But basically, what I've done here is built this through a combination of Cloud Code Console, and it's deployed via Git so that it survives, and I can keep that data for coaching. And I'm just gonna, I'm just actually gonna pick any scenario, right? So let's go with a discovery call with a busy founder. You'd bet that I should be okay at this. So put myself under a bit of pressure here live. I've built this to give myself the opportunity to feed it with any scenario. So you could practice for a live call that's coming up, or to put yourself on the spot so that you're actually, as I said before, practicing how you talk, right? So if I jump in, I'm just going to go ahead here. So who's the Priya, right? Morning, Priya. How are you doing today? Got it. Thanks, Priya. Appreciate the candor. It sounds as though your colleague Dan might not have prepped you for the call or framed what we were speaking about today. Sure. My name's Scott Priya. I'm the founder of Autonomic. I get the impression you're a busy founder. I am too. You've only got 15 minutes. So what I don't want to do is land you with a generic pitch right now that is a waste of your time, but I also don't want to waste mine. Shall I give you 30 seconds overview of what Dan and I talked about, why he thought it would be a good use of your time, and if you think it's worth continuing, either we use the remaining 13 minutes we have here, or we book more time to discuss in more detail. Does that sound good? Okay. So you get the point of how this tool works, right? The I guess the thing about this now, I could go on, and I actually got a little bit into a rabbit hole of this morning. I spent some time practicing some different scenarios. I've just come back from a holiday. I've not done this for a while, and it's I found it pretty enjoyable. Right, it's good fun. But I think for me, like, the useful output, it's not the score. The useful output is that you have the conversation. Um, and the reason I mentioned that I practiced a couple this morning is they were like downright terrible. like, and I said right at the start of this, I've always been bad at interviews. I use this to practice for getting into the masterclass program, but the being put on the spot, being put on under pressure with a difficult question, unless I've kind of practiced it and I know I'm comfortable, I start mumbling, I start fumbling around for the answer. But in the space of doing 3 repetitions this morning, and that might have been a terrible example, but in the space of doing 3 repetitions this morning, I've got 15 times better than I was. I don't know what that says for the first rep, but that's the output, right? It's the next repetition. You pick up on the areas that didn't go so well. You pick up on the areas that did, but particularly the stylistic elements of how you talk. And the really cool thing for me is it gives me a pattern over time, and then it gives me the idea of what to build on in terms of a development plan. So for me, what this also helped me think about is the beginning of kind of expanded product. It's not necessarily something that I would kind of take to market, but what I mean by product is more about what could I systemize in my own day that otherwise would become super manual, super high admin. And so that what started out as if I take you back here and show you the setup, what started out as really actually just this one couple of buttons down here, I've actually built this out into different scenarios. This could just as easily be configured super quickly to become different parts of the sales process or a Terra meetings or the forecast. So I think for me, the overall lesson is like what the outcome is, but AI becoming useful when it became about specificity on the challenge and making it personal enough to learn with me rather than generic kind of feedback loops, but using it to put myself in a position I've never really been comfortable enough with people, but with myself is actually compounds more and becomes more challenging is kind of practicing those skills that I find difficult, and so that when people are looking, I'm much more comfortable with them. So I hope this has been really helpful. You can find me on LinkedIn at Scott Sampson. I'm sure I'll be linked here with the guys' posts. I'm more than happy to chat with anyone who thinks building out a tool like that could help their day. And if you're lucky enough to be part of a GTM team that uses Pitstop, you've already got a bunch of these tools in there as well. But having some for wider context could always help. So hope to speak to some of you. Hope this has been useful, and take care.